Hi, welcome back to another lesson. This is a follow-up to my How to Strum Anything tutorial that I did just a couple of weeks ago, which got a lot of comments and a lot of views. Thank you very much for watching that. If you haven't seen it, maybe watch that video and come back to this one, and hopefully any questions that you might have will be answered in this second tutorial. People were asking me about what fingers that I use to strum, and I am primarily a finger strummer rather than a pick user. I do use a pick for certain things. Usually when I've got to strum kind of hard, if I'm playing live with some songs that need some heavy strumming, I'll tend to go for my pick rather than fingers. But on my index finger of my strumming hand, I have a slightly longer fingernail, which kind of acts as my pick. So I can go up, down and up with that fingernail, positioning my thumb as if I'm holding a pick usually, and that works as my pick. Now, you don't need much of a fingernail, just an extra millimeter or two will work as a pick. It also works for the strumming. Now, in the strumming tutorial that I did before, I was demonstrating how to do 16th note patterns. Now, what I'm doing here when I do 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, you'll see my thumb is nowhere near the strings. The strumming is coming from my index finger and a little bit from my other fingers as well, but mostly it's from this finger. My strumming action is like an outward extension of your fingers. It's not an arm movement as much as it is a flicking out of the fingers. So you extend your fingers and you pretty much do all your fingers together, but the first finger is the one that contacts the strings. So that's why the nail is longest on that finger. If you flick out, it's kind of like you're flicking some fluff off your clothing, your shoulder, your leg, wherever. But it's that sort of action. That flicking off, that's your down strum. As you come back up, it's the reverse of that. You're retracting your fingers, and that's when you touch the strings on the way back up. Again, just lightly catching that nail to give you that crisper sound. So that's my finger strumming. Down and up with all of the fingers, usually making most of the contact with my first fingernail, sometimes a little bit with my second fingernail, very rarely with my third fingernail. And you see, using that nail, you get an even volume and timbre between your downstrokes and your upstrokes if you have a nail there. If you don't have a nail, you can hear your nail on the way down, but on the way back up you'll get that fleshy sound from your finger pad that is not even with the downstrokes. So that. The next thing I was asked about was the fact that sometimes I will let my thumb come down to rest on this bottom E string, on the 6th string. And that is something that I do subconsciously, unconsciously now, not subconsciously, but that helps me if I'm playing, for example, a C chord. And with your classic C chord, you don't want to hear this bottom E string. So when you strum down with your fingers, your thumb just comes down and stops when it touches the E string. And automatically, that means you can strum all 6 strings and not worry about having that bottom E string muddy up the chord. The same with other chords as well. Whenever you don't want to hear that bottom E string, and even the A string as well, if you're playing a D, your thumb can just move in front of the strings and touch both the E and the A strings as well and mute the strings that way. So it's a very, very useful muting device, and it cleans up your chords very, very effectively, and after a while you won't even realize that you're doing it. The other great thing that a thumb strum has, and you'll also see that I've got a bit of a nail on the thumb, but that's less useful to me until I'm starting to do, finger picking patterns, which is not what this lesson is about. Incidentally, playing with your fingers allows you to go from strumming to finger picking and back and forth seamlessly. You don't need to pick up a pick, drop a pick. You don't need to change anything because it's all in your fingers. Anyway, the other great thing that you can do with your thumb when you're strumming is you can lead off with the root note of a chord or any note of a chord really, but it's usually the bottom bass note, the root note of a chord. And you can use your thumb to kind of launch into that chord, which is great because it's a good sound, but it also gives you an extra beat or a fraction of a beat to get that chord under the rest of your fingers. So if you're going to a particularly tricky chord that you're maybe not used to, you get that first note down and it gives you an extra little moment to get your chord organized when you follow it with a strum. Great for reggae as well. So that alternating action between your thumb and your fingers, which naturally go in opposite directions because that's the way we're built, is a really, really useful thing for your rhythms. And once you get used to playing with your fingers, you will find that there is nothing that can substitute rhythmically for that back and forth action between thumb and fingers. Finally, the other great thing about playing with a thumb and strumming through the rest of your chord, or even using fingers to just grab notes out of your chord, is that you can actually pick your way through chords sort of randomly, but you can actually just really free time it through these chords, and you can gradually see what I did then? Hit the E string and then followed it with fingers on the rest of the notes in the chord. So whether you're strumming or whether you're picking some notes with your fingers after the bass note with your thumb, or whether you're actually just, doing a finger picking pattern, playing with your fingers just opens up so many possibilities, and it will speed up your chord progressions. If you can actually get that bass note first and then follow it with the rest of the chord strumming, it just means that you have that extra moment to get your chords in order, and as you do that, you can gradually increase your efficiency with chord changes and get faster and faster as you go. I think that's kind of covered it. If there's any other questions, if you would like to ask me anything at all about this this way of playing with your fingers, I am by no means a master at it, but there are guys out there and girls out there that play more masterfully than me with their fingers, and they've been doing it for a lot longer. But this is the way I like to play. This is what was in the first tutorial, mostly finger strumming. But having said that, almost everything that I've told you in this lesson, you can approximate that with a pick as well. You can lead off with a pick and follow the chord like that. The only thing you can't do obviously is pick two notes at once. So for a finger picking pattern, you can't do that with a pick. You can do it with a thumb pick, obviously, but everything else you can kind of do that with a pick. It's just going to give you a different feel. There is no right and wrong. You find your own way playing your instrument. You develop your own sound. You figure out the things that you like and the things that you don't. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Thanks again for the support that you've been giving the channel, especially on those last couple of videos. And please let me know if there's any other questions. If I can help you out becoming a better player, better strummer, I'll do it. Talk soon. See you next time.